One morning, while an old man was sitting on his porch enjoying the sunrise, a young boy wanders by the house with a roll of something under his arm. The old man says, "What you got there, son?" The boy replies, "It's a roll of chicken wire. I'm going to catch me some chickens." The old man says, "You fool. You can't catch chickens with chicken wire." The boy laughs and carries on. That evening, before sunset, the boy comes walking back with 30 chickens caught in the chicken wire. Huh. The next morning, the young boy comes strolling by again with a roll of something in his hand. The old man says, "What you got there, son?" The boy replies, "I got me some duct tape. I'm going to go catch me some ducks." "You fool, you can't catch ducks with duct tape." The boy simply laughs and carries on. That night before sunset, the boy comes walking by trailing 30 ducks in a row, all caught up in the duct tape. The next morning, the young lad comes walking by the house dragging a branch. "Well, what you got this time?" says the old timer. "This here's a pussy willow," says the boy. "Now just hold on right there, young fella," says the old man. "Let me get my hat."
This right here has the ability with a 30 caliber clip to disperse with 30 bullets within half a second.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber.
You're listening to your weekly dose of BS, Ballistically Speaking. The Ballistically Speaking Podcast.
Boy, that old man's going to be disappointed when he just catches a whole bunch of stray cats.
I thought that was too good to let go.
That's not a good sign when the second comment of the night is "not this again."
Yeah.
And the worst part is, I don't know if John's talking about like the ridiculous intro or if he's talking about that we're going to go completely off the rails and not talk about reloading again.
Or maybe he's got something against Oscar.
So there's
Most
this
likely.
there's this new caliber 8.6 black.
You're right. Okay, enough of that shit.
Should we get into it? Start talking about all our peoples, and then talk to Oscar about reloading this week.
Well, sure. Let's do that.
All right. Well,
where
let's.
are we?
I'm right here.
Session number 22, isn't it? Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
I got a different screen up. I can't see it. Where'd you go?
Well, I'll just start and you catch up, okay?
Okay.
We would like to let everybody know that our show is brought to you tonight by March Scopes Canada. Kurt, that means you were supposed to read this one.
No.
Dion Optical Design are the creators and designers of March rifle scopes, which are all hand-built in Japan by Japanese craftsmen using only genuine Japanese parts to achieve the highest optical standards possible. Shooters deserve the best possible optics to succeed in all aspects of competition, tactical and hunting situations. And for this reason, Dion has produced a March rifle scope for every situation. Get a hold of Doug Wright at www.marchscopes.ca and his email. Does he really want us giving out his email online? Too late. Doug at marchscopes.ca. It's probably not that hard to figure out. It's just Doug at marchscopes.ca.
I mean, go to marchscopes.ca and his email's right there. So I'm not sure.
So did you see the
there?
Did you see the write-up? March Scopes Canada has a write-up in what's the magazine that they're in?
Oh,
it's an acronym, and I'm bad with acronyms. It's a shooting magazine. Anyways, you're going to look it up, aren't you? So did you see what I was listed as in the
yes,
on the protein thing?
Quite prestigious.
I like how they put right at the end of it PRS competitor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I appreciate that, guys. I've been to exactly one competition in my life, so that's nice. One competition that I shot with a March scope. I have, however, been to a very prestigious 2 competitions in my life.
Well, we'll have to work on improving that in 2023.
Yeah, I'll definitely do more in 23.
Yeah,
for sure I will.
All right. We're also brought to you by EM Precision Rifles in Leduc, Alberta. They have the tools, the knowledge, and the support you need to achieve your goals of precision rifle mastery. As skilled craftsmen and proven solution providers, EM Precision guarantees equipment performance second to none. Consult with Shane for the build of your dreams and allow Steve to handcraft your next precision tool for an experience you will not forget. Find these guys on Facebook, Instagram, and on their website at emprifles.ca.
Speaking of EMP rifles, guess what photos we finally got?
Oh, I can't wait.
And he's watching right now too. So we're gonna put I hope he doesn't mind. I didn't actually ask him if we could put his photos up, but 3, 2, 1, here it comes, Joel.
Go.
This is Joel and his son taking their first shots with the EM Precision custom build with Apex Rival scope that he won back in May, that we raffled off shortly before we became Ballistically Speaking. So they finally were able to get out there and take their first shots with it. And I've got video. Unfortunately, he texted the video to me, and I don't know if you guys have ever had a video texted to you, but
yeah,
it just kills the video quality. So I don't have the video right now. So maybe we'll show the video of them shooting next week. Just ask them to give me a higher res version of it. But it looks like they're having a lot of fun with it, and that warms the cockles of my heart. So it's cool to finally see him being able to shoot that rifle.
You betcha. There's Joel right there.
Just awesome. So smooth, he says.
I think he was talking about you, honestly, Chris.
I am? Well, no, I knew that.
Oh, or maybe
Joel,
it was the rifle.
Joel, tell us something that I don't already know.
Rico Suave.
That is correct. You are correct. Speaking of smooth, our show is also brought to you by Bolt Action Coffee, bringing specialty coffee to the precision shooting world. Order coffee and merchandise at boltactioncoffee.com.
And call sign 66, welcome to the Brotherhood. Book a course with them now at callsign66.ca.
And Odell Engineering, pick up a Canuck shotgun or a Bergera rifle from your local distributor and tell them Phil sent you. Look them up at odellengineeringltd.com.
Apex Optics. When you buy Apex, precision comes standard. Find them at apexoptics.co and grab yourself a rival 4-32 rifle scope and get on the mailing list for more exciting products coming soon and on more rifles like you just saw on Joel's rifle.
And also featured on the final review video for the B14 HMR from Odell Engineering that just went up. Was it earlier this week? Did I put it up on Monday?
Yesterday, I thought.
Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not good at this.
The week kind of got away on you, hey?
It really did. It was a crazy week. But yeah, it's up on the YouTubes. You can see what Kurt thought as final thoughts about the B14 and a run through of all the features.
I'm getting slagged all over the place for falling in love with a rifle, I guess.
I know. I don't know. Like these
is that forbidden? Like
these are literally the people who like kiss their gun goodnight and tuck it under their pillow before they go to sleep.
What's wrong with that?
They're slagging on you for falling in love with your rifle. Come on, guys. You know what it is?
What?
Jealousy. Finally, this will come as no surprise to anyone. Our show is brought to you by Ribstone Gunsmithing, craftsmanship done right. Contact the guy directly below me on your screen, Oscar at ribstonegunsmithing.ca, and breathe life back into any firearm. CPR not included.
Is that true? Do you not have your first aid?
Oh no, I'm the old patch. I got my first aid.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that he provides it for free.
He just likes the top
AED
row.
at the gun club.
You got to buy a gear first.
Okay.
We had to watch who was in charge of the do not resuscitate list.
I suppose. Oh no, I swear he's got a DNR. Let him go. Let him go.
So we brought you back on, Oscar, because for whatever reason, we talked about practically everything last week except for reloading. For the first time ever, you had two Chatty Cathys on the show instead of just the usual one. And we left you very little room to talk. There was a lot of nodding and smiling on your part. It was very polite of you to allow us to hijack the show that you were supposed to be the guest on.
I wish I had $1 for every time I saw Oscar going.
And of course, it was one of our longer episodes too. We went pretty close to 2 hours. So we thought we'd bring you back on and actually talk about reloading this time.
The floor is yours.
Yeah, and go.
We should
we
start there this time.
well, we were kind of chatting before the show today about some of the things that we wanted to talk about reloading, and it kind of came up that you are especially a Dylan reloading aficionado. I mean, there's literally two of them directly behind you right now.
Yeah, big fan of Big Blue.
Was that about $5,000 worth of reloading? A reloader or bench? What the hell presses?
Keep sliding.
Do they have the motor drive on them?
No, but
No.
the one press with conversions is $5,000 by itself.
Oh Jesus!
Okay.
So somewhere in the neighborhood of what, 8, 9? Presses?
Yeah, probably retail. I mean, I
Yeah.
just pay all that for everything, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well let's start there then. Let's talk about specifically progressive reloaders, and let's talk about different brands, because you've got experience with a lot more brands than just Dylan.
Yeah,
and let's just see where the world takes us.
I started out with a RCBS Pro 2000, which was a pretty decent progressive press, but it didn't have a case feeder for it.
Oh.
And any progressive press that doesn't have a case feeder or a hull feed or a bullet feeder, one of the two at least, slows you down because you got to do two things on every step with your offhand, right? Whereas you go to the Dillons with a case feeder, like I would not buy a Dillon that didn't have a case feeder. To me, the 550 is a worthless press as a progressive.
So now does that
I think it's marketed as more a turret, but
does that mean that you're not using a bullet feeder, so your offhand is just feeding the bullet every time, or?
Was my 1050 now has a bullet feeder too, so now I just crank the handle.
Okay. All right.
But depends which calibers I'm loading.
One handle on the press, one handle on the jug.
No, that's a dangerous way to live. I take enough chances with the people I hang out with. I don't need to shake them reloading too.
Well,
I don't know what he means specifically like that, Chris, but
he's probably talking about me. People falling off of
right
platforms and such. Okay, let's talk about, because Dylan is very add-on when it comes to this stuff. So you can buy like your basic press, and then there's a million different things to add on. So let's walk through, because is it a 750 and a 1050 you got behind you?
I've got a 650 and a 1050.
Okay, let's start with what is the difference between the 650, 750, and 1050?
I actually can't remember the difference between the 650 and the 750 because I don't have a 750. 750 is basically the new model of the 650. I think there's a couple of minor upgrades here and there. The 1050 does a couple of things. It has a couple more stations, but the big thing is it will swage primer pockets while you're loading. So if you got military crimped ammo, 308 cases, 223, I think some 9mm have crimped primers. You got to swage the pockets to fit your primers in properly. That's usually a separate step. The 1050 will do that as you go through reloading. You can
automatically
set it up to swage. Yep. First stage sizes deprime, second stage swages, then carry on through the process.
If you're going to be doing 223, that seems worth the upgrade.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, it's also faster. The 1050 primes on the downstroke, whereas the 650, I assume the 750, and basically every other progressive press I've run or seen, you size and everything, seat bolts on the downstroke, you come up and you over center going backwards to prime. The nice part about that is you can feel if there's a primer there or not.
Right.
You get a lot more feel, but that extra movement slows things down, right? That extra movement every time. Whereas 1050, you just crank it, when she hits the bottom, she seats the primer. If you run out of primers, you have no idea other than the alarms buzzing in your ears because you can't feel anything priming. That's the downside of the 1050, is there's no feel on priming whatsoever.
So how many primers does a primer feeder hold? How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
Yeah. And there's a lot of things you can get expanded capacity on a Dillon. The primer tube's not one of them, because primers are explosive, and when one goes off, the whole column goes off. They're shrouded in the Dillon in a nice big steel casing, and when they go off, your primer tolu rod goes through the roof. Wow, not really. It kind of sticks in the drywall in the roof.
Can you show us? Can you show us those holes?
Yeah.
Not in this place, but I've done it twice.
Is that right?
So how do primers go off in a primer tube? Like what causes that? Just overstacking or not
I'm gonna say when the shuttle comes back and forth, if something jams up in there or whatever,
Yeah.
probably some cleaning helps too, because you do notice there gets to be powder, like primer dust and everything. So probably a little more often cleaning might not hurt either, because I suspect all that little primer dust in there probably is all essentially fulminates of some sort.
Of the so cleaning of the tube or cleaning of that station on the press?
Probably the shuttle and stuff like that.
Okay.
I'm thinking probably anytime I've had them go off, it probably was something jammed in the shuttle, and I wasn't feeling stuff well enough, and consequently tried to force something. First rule of reloading on a progressive press: learn what the reloading feels like, and if you feel something wrong, stop immediately. Full stop.
Yeah.
I've bought a lot of parts because I did not stop. It took me a lot of dollars spent and a lot of shells loaded to learn to stop. If it doesn't feel right, stop.
So
I'm sure it'll be okay.
Yeah, it'll be fine. So you said that the 650 or 750 versus the 1050. The 1050 has a couple of more stations. Obviously, one of them is pocket swaging. Are there other stations that don't exist on the other models?
Hang on, I got to count some holes. I can't remember now.
He wasn't expecting us to answer all these technical questions.
That's right. Should have gave him the notes.
There's 5 on the 650 and 7 on the 1050. So there's one extra station you can use for something if you need to.
What would you use it for?
So basically, you can crimp and you can seat and crimp in different stations.
Oh yeah, crimping. Okay, but okay. Here's a good question about reloading. So I've reloaded 44 Magnum. And I crimped the 44 Magnum. I have reloaded, 308, 6.5 Creedmoor, 270, and 223 in rifle cartridges. Never crimped them. Do I really need to?
Nope. Never crimped any cartridges.
So
44 Magnum is a heavy bullet in a handgun. Handguns recoil. The inertia of the bullet wants to stay put. When the gun goes backwards, you will start to back bullets out of the cases, tie up the cylinder, nasty things like that in a 44 Magnum, or at least you have potential for that.
Okay.
If you load 30-30, you probably want to crimp them unless you're shooting like an H&R single shot or something like that, because they're all stacked up in a tube. Under recoil, stuff starts to move. So there's certain cartridges you want to crimp. So you can find crimping might affect accuracy and things like that as well. Back to the whole neck tension thing.
Okay.
But yeah, big boomers, like I crimp 500 416s. No, I never crimp my 375 H&Hs because it's a single shot. Most guys shooting those in a bolt gun will crimp them so they don't walk in and out under recoil.
So it really just depends on what you're going to be shooting it in and what type of cartridge it is.
Right.
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
I've never crimped my 358 Norma mag. Mind you, that's not a high volume rifle for me. That's a 7.5 pound rifle. It kicks about like your 375, but I've never seen any problems with it. But again, like I say, I've never shot, a whole pile through it in one sitting, sort of thing. So,
and another thing is if you're shooting very compressed loads, some bullets will want to grow back out of the case, and crimping can stop that too.
Oh, okay. So, for example, with my 200 grain ELDX, I mean that is a compressed load, but I don't think it's a super compressed load. I also
take a bunch of your cases, your cartridges, measure them right off the press.
Yeah.
Set them on the shelf. Come back in 2 weeks and measure the length again.
Yeah.
So even if I don't move the cartridges, if the bullet is going to walk out of the neck, it's going to do it just by sitting there.
If it's the compressed load causing it,
yeah. Interesting.
I went to Africa with a guy who had a bunch of 8mm odd 6 rounds load. I think it was 8mm odd 6. He loaded them. He did his load development the week before he went to Africa. Loaded a bunch of rounds. Got to Africa, first day out, put a round in the chamber, pulled the case out. Case came out, powder laying in his action, bullet stuck in the end of the muzzle or breech into the barrel.
Okay.
Tapped that out. They were trying to find a press and some kind of die to seat all his bullets back down.
Really?
And we had that discussion on the airplane on the way over. He's like, I'm running a pretty compressed load. We're like, do your bullets grow? He's like, what? First day we found out they do.
So he was flying with them too.
Oh yeah, probably altitude differences probably weren't helpful either.
Yeah, I was going to say that can't have helped the situation. So how did he, like, if he knew that beforehand, why didn't he travel with a press?
We brought it up on the flight. We asked him about that. We mentioned he had compressed loads. And he looked at us like, what are you guys talking about?
And then he found out.
Then he found out.
Yeah. Okay. So back to the 1050. So there's 7 stages in the 1050, 650/750. There's 5 stages. You can pocket swage, or you could crimp with a 1050. Other than that, are there other real differences or advantages to a 1050?
The 1050, because that extra motion on the primer is, without that extra motion, it's faster.
Okay.
There's definitely more rounds per, and it's all. Mine is an old RL 1050. So mine will only do up to 223 length. I can't do 308 on it. The Super 1050s will do 308 length for sure. They might do 30-06. I can't remember.
Okay.
But they definitely do 308 length in the Super 1050. But mine's the old RL 1050. So because it's a shorter stroke again, it's actually faster yet than the. There's lots of guys that are pistol loaders look for the old RL 1050s.
Okay.
I just happened to find that thing. That's how I got into Dillon. I was sitting at the Swift Current Gun Show, which I think's on this weekend, actually. I was wandering around there. I found out, I didn't even know Dillon made a 1050. I was watching stuff on the internet. This guy's got a 1050. I'm like, what's that? I go to Dillon's website. At that point in time, at least Dillon had which press is right for you. And they listed the 450, the 550, the 650, and they stopped. Because that is considered a commercial grade machine. So then I got reading further. Oh, yeah, here's a 1050. Read about it. Mentioned a couple guys at the range. Hey, have you guys seen one of these? These are cool. I'd like to own one of these one day. That was Thursday. Saturday, I'm at the Swift Current Gun Show, and buddy says, there's your Dillon you wanted. I'm like, no, that's a 550. I wanted a 1050. Somebody walking by, not minding their own business, says, you're looking for a Dillon 1050? Hey, Bob, what's Joe's phone number? Give me a phone number. A couple days later, I had negotiated the deal, and I owned a 1050.
Well, you should probably find me a 1050 then. You're like a water witcher for presses.
Yeah.
So am I right or wrong that like the base price for an XL 750 now is like around that 900 to 1,000 mark? And
that sounds right. And you need a case feeder for it.
And you need a case feeder for it. The 1050 is what? It. Okay.
Probably 2,300. It comes with a case feeder, but I bet you it's got to be 2,400 probably now, maybe US.
So it does come with a case feeder.
Yes. But you're probably 1,300 into a 750. And you're $1,000 for 1050.
So for $1,000, you're getting, a bit faster speed. You're getting 2 extra stations if you need them.
But you lose versatility. A 750 or 650 will load almost any caliber you want. Not all, but you can get a shell plate for the vast majority of stuff and whatnot to load for it. The 1050 definitely has limitations on length. Definitely the RLs, and I think the Supers still have some limitation on length of cartridge, and they don't make as many shell holders and stuff like that for the 1050. So unless you're setting up a duty press for like 223 and you really want that crimp stage, my recommendation is the 750. It has a lot more versatility to your life. So what I run my 1050 for is pistol cartridges and 223 and like 3220, stuff like that. Yeah. And then almost everything else, all my rifle stuff runs on the 650.
Okay. So if that gives us a pretty good idea with the Dillon. What
also the 650, I should say the 650's cartridge conversion is a lot cheaper. It's a lot cheaper to change calibers on a 650 than a 1050 or 750. And if you do want to set up extra tool heads, a tool head for a 1050 is really expensive.
Okay.
Whereas if you want a die plate for the 650, if you want to buy a powder measure for everyone, that adds some cost, but just the die plate is not that expensive on a 650. So you can set your dies and just swap them in and out.
Yeah, I think they're $60 or something like that the last time.
That sounds about right. Okay. Whereas I think for a 1050, I think you're running $400.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
Oh, really?
Like significant price difference.
Yeah. So for a guy who, theoretically, primarily reloads 308, but now is also reloading 6.5 Creedmoor, going to be reloading 6.5 Grendel very soon, and would like to start reloading 223 on the regular, should get a 750.
That would be my recommendation.
Yeah.
And that was, when I got my 1050, I was still running my RCBS Pro 2000 at the time. And that's basically the motivation I had to sell the Pro 2000 and buy a 650. I liked my 1050 so much. I sold it and went and bought I mean, the 1050 I bought because I think I paid $1,000 for it with 2 tool heads.
Oh my!
Oh shit!
Yeah, it was. I wasn't looking to buy one at the time. I knew it existed for 3 days when I made the deal.
Yeah,
But the
you
deal was
basically
at
bought
that
it for
time.
the price of a 750.
Yeah, at that time, probably a brand new 1050 was going to cut with 2 tool heads would have cost me $2,500.
Yeah,
Easy.
no shit. Before
So-
we go too far, because I've already long scrolled past this question, and I want him to be able to ask it. Spud is asking, Dylan has many moving parts. Do you have to fine tune the press for each caliber to get the press running right?
I wouldn't say so. There's a few things to tune on them in general, but not much. They run pretty well. It's more learning the feel when something's going wrong, but you set your dies for the new caliber and away you go. I don't find there's a whole lot of tuning and tweaking. Not like Lee Pro 1000s. As I think somebody else on this podcast learned.
That's a good segue then. Let's talk about other brands, because Dylan is not the only progressive brand out there, and you've used several other ones. So let's talk about them. What else is out there, and why do they blow goats?
Well, I actually think I think the Hornady lock and load system, I think it's a pretty good press.
Okay.
I know some guys run those, or the old projectors. I think they run very well for them. RCBS has new progressive that has a case feeder, I'm pretty sure. I wouldn't be afraid to try it. I don't have the experience with it.
Okay.
The Lees, you have to want to tinker. My theory on life is I want to load ammo, I want to load it fast, especially running a progressive. I don't want to tinker with it. I have to tinker more with my Dillons than I would like, and they run pretty decent.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I don't want to have to stop every 50 rounds and tinker with something. That's not. If I loaded 200 rounds a year, I'd probably enjoy reloading.
If you say
I
that
don't
again,
reload 200. If I only reloaded 200 rounds a year, I'd probably enjoy reloading. I don't enjoy reloading.
Yeah, I don't enjoy reloading either.
I reload because I have to, economically.
Yeah.
And I get better quality ammo and all the other reasons to reload.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't hate reloading, but it's not my first choice of things to do in an evening.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and for me, it's a matter of time too. You know, to reload just 100 rounds right now. I'm using to be honest with you, I'm using my father's old RCBS rock chucker that he probably bought sometime in the early 70s, and still works great. But you know, it's just a single stage press, and for me to reload even 100 rounds, I'm over an hour to reload 100 rounds, and that's not including case prep. Like case prep is 100% separate from that. Like once I've got prep cases, just the priming, powder charge, and bullet seeding for 100 rounds, I'm well over an hour.
Yeah, if you're starting with empty prep or empty polished brass, if you're going to polish it, if you've got 50 brass that are unsized, still got primers and stuff like that, I figure if you can run 50 rounds an hour on a single stage press, you're humping on her. That's
absolutely.
Yeah. And I do try, like I sometimes I do just try to like just get it done because I just don't enjoy it so much. But then again, that leads to things like when I was prepping 6.5 Creedmoor before the competition that the three of us were at earlier this year. Literally the night before I'm supposed to leave for the competition, and forgot to seed a primer. Put the powder charge in, seeded the bullet, still didn't notice there was powder leaking out the bottom of it until I went and the day of pulled the cartridge out of the box, and I was like, why is there powder everywhere? And, you know,
yeah, once you get progressives, you're just used to that.
Used to having that happen because you don't count your primers.
Yeah, I definitely, every progressive I've run skips the odd primer now and then. It bounced out of the system somewhere, whatever. My Pro 2000, I was having real problems with priming issues. I phoned RCBS. Maybe I wrote to them, like, what am I doing wrong? How am I doing this? And there it was, slow down. Right. I had way better success when I slowed down on my priming section of the press.
You guys advertised 1,000 rounds an hour. I'm only at 600. Fuck you, slow down.
Yeah, like you're not gonna like my answer, but my answer is slow down. I'm like, well, I like your answer better than I like not priming cases. So
yeah, exactly. Did you? Speaking of the cost of, you were talking about it a minute ago, the cost of reloading. Do you guys watch? What's it called? It's a YouTube channel called Backfire. It's a guy out of Utah. Does mostly, bolt gun stuff, reloading stuff. It's a pretty decent little YouTube channel. I forget the guy's name, but he's out of Utah anyway. He just like a week or so ago did an analysis, current analysis of factory ammunition cost versus reloading, and I think he did like half a dozen factory loads versus reloading, essentially the exact same load. And I know this is American numbers, and a lot of us are Canadian here. And this is also probably specific to costs in Utah, but he found that reloading right now was 48% cheaper on average than buying factory ammunition.
That's every time I've ever priced it out from 20 years ago to current. That's pretty much what I find for like standard rifle type cartridges.
Yeah.
Half.
Yeah.
You're going to load, I mean, if you want to load premium bullets, you want to show partitions and A-frame, stuff like that in there, Barnes TSXs and whatnot, your cost goes up, but you go look at the price of factory ammo with those bullets on it, and you're back at half.
Yeah. Wow. That's just bonkers. It's really like helping me decide that, I definitely would like to get a progressive press.
And if you get into pistol stuff, depending, like if you want to load cast bullets and stuff, especially if you're casting your own bullets, you can load pistol ammo for, used to be nearly free at 10 cents a primer. They're not quite as cheap as they used to be.
Yeah.
Like I used to shoot 45 ACP for 5 cents a round when 22 long rifle was probably 3.5 or 4.
Yeah. Right. Now 22 long rifle is 7 to 9 cents a round.
Yeah. And with the price of powder and primers, if you cast my own bullets, I could probably shoot 45 ACP for 14 cents. I don't know, something like that.
Crazy.
I don't know. I bought 10 pounds of powder 10 years ago, and I didn't have a gun for it, so I went and bought a 45 ACP, so I didn't want to do load development for one of the guns I had, and I'm still working on that 10 pounds of powder. So,
So Bending's making an interesting comment here. He says RCBS and Hornaday. I think that was just spelled phonetically for a Kentucky accent. Presses are the best presses for the money. Dillon presses are fickle for new reloaders. Have you found the same thing? Or are we talking?
I haven't got to run the Hornadies enough to know.
I'm also wondering if Bending is talking about single stage versus single stage, or if he's talking about progressive versus progressive, or.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. I definitely think the old Pro 2000 was nowhere near the Dillon. It was a decent press. The Pro 2000. That's the progressive I had. That was an RCBS one. Okay. Yeah. RCBS has a new progressive out that I think is way better than that. But I've never got to run one. My guys at the Hornadies really like them. I don't think they get the volume of ammo out of the Hornady they get out of the Dillon, but they all seem very happy with how they run for them. So
interesting. So out of your 650, let's say you're reloading 308. I know it's probably too pedestrian a cartridge for you, but let's say you're loading 308. How many in an hour are you pumping out on your 650?
I would say I can put 400 to 500 an hour easy. I mean, the numbers are theoretically
what I'm doing.
Like theoretically, they are. You could do 650 rounds an hour on a 650.
Yeah.
If I really humped on it, I might be able to do that.
But you might miss
one of the things that helps with that is what's that?
You might miss a primer or two, though.
Yeah, maybe the Dillons are much more tolerant with speed than the RCBS was.
Okay,
but if you want to load that speed, if you look over this shoulder there, that box thing back there, the red tube on it.
Yeah.
That is an RF 100 primer tube filler.
Here, let's
makes things a lot better.
That's a what filler?
Oh yeah,
primer tube filler. So you throw your box of primers to the top, you turn it on, it vibrates, collates all your primers the right way, and drops into this tube.
No way.
So that makes a big difference. Like if
so you don't have around, chicken peck each goddamn primer.
If you're gonna sit and peck every primer up, and then like most guys will sit and watch TV, peck all their primers, they'll have like 10 primer tube full, and then they'll go reload, right?
Okay.
Well, I drop my primers in the machine, put the tube back in that, stick 100 primers in it, hit start. While I'm loading 100 rounds, it fills the primer tube. And it'll fill the primer tube faster than I can load 100 rounds.
So what does that sucker cost? And that's Dillon as well?
That's Dillon, and it's expensive. I can't remember, but I think it's a $400, maybe more touch these days.
So we have to start considering the time factor versus the money spent to save time. Yeah.
And again, I scrounged till I found one on Gun Nuts, and I think I paid under $300 for it.
Mhm.
And kudos to Dylan.
The way to do it.
It was missing some parts. I knew that when I bought it.
Yeah.
I phoned Dylan. I'm like, I need these parts. The guy's like, you're in Canada? I'm like, yep. He's like, and Dylan lifetime warranties most of their stuff, not the 1050. That's another reason to buy a 750.
Yeah.
The 1050 they consider a commercial grade machine. It does not come with a lifetime warranty.
Oh.
But they've warranted stuff for me on it anyway.
Okay.
But my primer tube filler, he's like, you're from Canada? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I don't want to have to charge you shipping to Canada. I'll just warranty you the parts. He sent me the parts I was missing in a box, mailed to me for free.
No,
really?
Yeah. And I also have to say, RCBS, fantastic warranty. I broke stuff on my Pro 2000 that I broke. I smashed it. Remember the part about when you feel something not right? Stop.
Yeah.
I phoned RCBS. I'm like, here's what I broke. Here's how I did it. Here's my credit card. They're like, no, we're sending you parts.
They gave you the
really?
Vortex warranty.
Absolutely. RCBS warranty, anytime I've used it, has been absolutely fantastic. Dylan's warranty, they don't warranty everything because, again, a lot of my equipment that I've got from them is not lifetime warranty, but they have warranted everything that should have been and then some for me.
Interesting. Okay.
Whereas Lee, I broke one of their unbreakable decapping pins and I got to buy new ones.
And I have, even read that online. Everybody seems to agree that the only people that buy Lee presses are the people who don't really they're brand new. They don't have buddies that are in the know, and they're shopping at Cabela's.
I have to say, some of the RCBS single stage, or not RCBS, some of the Lee single stage products are decent products.
Okay, they just haven't figured out the progressive yet.
Yeah, I don't think their progressives up to snuff. Their classic cast is a fairly decent press. Even some of their cheaper models, I mean, they're not as stiff as a rock chucker, but they will load ammo for you. They will do the job. I don't want to bash all Lee products. I've got lots of their reloading molds for casting bullets. I'm not totally bashing Lee. Just when it comes to progressive market, avoid Lee like the plague.
Interesting. Well, that's good advice because I'm dumb enough to go buy something from Cabela's. So just a side topic, Bending's saying no one is really from Utah, or they don't claim to be from there generally. There are a lot of cults in Utah. Well, Backfire does claim to be from there. Although I will tell you, man, last year on our drive, we're going to do it this year, Kurt, you, me, and Jens, driving through Utah, you cannot pass a city in Utah without seeing a giant Holy Jesus Church of Latter-day Saints.
Is that right?
And I'm talking if you drive by, you go through Salt Lake at night, you look to the left when you're on the highway and it's lit up just, I don't even know what it's lit up like. There's nothing else like it. It's just this giant white building in the middle of Salt Lake City. And it's not just Salt Lake, it's every town as you go along. I think is Pocatello in Utah, or is it Pocatello's in Utah. So there's one I think there's one in Pocatello, there's one in Salt Lake, there's literally that whole string all the way from north to south in Utah. It's just Latter-day Saints churches. And then is it Barnes is in Utah.
Barnes, I think. Yeah.
So it's Latter-day Saints and the Barnes factory. And the Barnes factory
Museum. You missed the Browning Museum.
Oh, what is that in Salt Lake?
Think just outside of Salt Lake, possibly. I've never got to be there myself yet, but yeah, it's in Utah.
On the way down, Kurt, we should try to make time to go to the Browning Museum and see if Barnes will give us a factory tour.
That would be something for sure.
I mean, it would be actually worth stopping in Utah for.
Right.
Because I'm not sure there's anything else that's worth stopping for.
Otherwise, it'd be in the car like the low rider.
Don't look. Okay, where were we?
Bill says Morgan, Utah.
Morgan? What's in Morgan? The
Is
Browning?
he talking about the Browning Museum?
I don't know.
Wonder.
I remember that the Barnes factory was very close to the Melaleuca factory, and most people won't know what that is, but it's a multi-level marketing, like natural health food shit. I just remember them being relatively close to each other, just on opposite sides of the highway. Where the hell were we? I got so sidetracked, I can't even remember where we were. Oh,
I think we left it off at Lee.
Lee. Yeah. So here's another question. Do you know off the top of your head? I know I could look it up, but it's a podcast. And we're trying to get information to people. Is the Hornady more, less, or around the same price as, say, like a XL 750?
I don't know off the top of my head. I think
they're a little cheaper. A little bit more now, honestly.
The Hornadies are more.
I think so. I was looking around a little bit a couple of weeks ago for a buddy of mine, and
when you were looking, were you taking account? I think the Hornady comes with a case feeder though, and the Dillon doesn't.
Oh, maybe that's it.
Oh,
Factor in a case feeder if you want to compare apples to apples.
Okay, yeah.
So they're probably around the same price.
I'm thinking possibly. It's been a long time since I shopped for Progressives because these two have been sitting on my bench for a long time.
Yeah. Okay. So David's wondering if we went on off topic yet. We were actually surprisingly very on topic up until the last couple of minutes here.
Well, right. Thanks, Chris.
I know.
I drank enough to stay in the conversation this time.
and thankfully only one of me and Rooster is drinking. We're gonna have to take turns from now on, Kurt.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. No. It's my night to drink.
That's right.
So here's a comment from Fred. Reloading can be a challenge right now for some rifle calibers with large rifle primers, and some of the popular powders are near unobtainium. Holy frick, is that the truth, hey?
Yeah.
Right now, I'm having
factory ammo for some stuff.
Yeah, well, that's true too. I'm trying to find Winchester brass locally. There's nobody locally that has it, including Cabela's. Yes, I went to Cabela's too. I had to go look at them. But I will say this. I was able to snag 100 rounds of 200 grain ELDX from Extreme Range Outfitters today. Okay. And I've got 200 more coming from North Pro Sports, also locally. Hopefully they'll be here by the beginning of next week, but neither of them had brass and neither of them had more Varget powder.
Did you also see that notice put out by Lapua that they're suspending production on quite a few rifle calibers?
Why?
Well, I don't know. I just saw there was another update to that today, and I just breezed through it. I didn't have time to really read it. Something to do with the strife going on in Europe and all that kind of shit. But some of it has to do with low sales, like 6.5 by 47 for one is on the list of suspended calibers.
Really?
And, yeah.
Oh my God.
Just reading through some of the Facebook posts and that, guys commenting that even guys from retail stores saying that they've had 6.5 by 47 and 6 Creedmoor on their shelves for months that haven't moved. Now, part of that has to do with like Alpha and Peterson brass starting to get into that market and that too. Now, Lapua is discontinuing 7.62 by 39. Like they're cutting it out completely.
Just as Hornady makes a new cartridge for it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, how many people are reloading 7.62 by 39? I wonder. When you can buy the Army surplus stuff for cheap,
and especially in a good quality case like a Lapua.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Who feeds 7.62 by 39 through a precision rifle?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Not many.
Well, CZ makes some nice rifles in 7.62 by 39 now.
Yeah, that's true.
Worth the ammo to load up. If you're going through the work to hand load 7.62 by 39, why wouldn't you use Lapua brass?
Yeah, I suppose. Or you could just buy the new Hornady Subsonic and reload with Hornady brass.
Mm-hmm.
What do I know? Fred Wait a minute. That's the exact same
let's go.
comment. Oh, I'm just going to skip this comment here. I believe I addressed that particular accusation last week. Uke is trying to be gentle because this is Oscar's second week in a row. Man's got a lot of knowledge to share. So we want to hear what he's got to say.
Yeah, you other two, shut the hell up, drunk bastards.
Okay, I'm just trying to get to the reloading questions in here. So yeah, Bending saying, Lee presses are great if you want to get into reloading for cheap. I mean, yeah, I do. I mean, cost is a thing, but I also don't want to be fucking around because my press is screwing around all the time.
And again, I think he's referring, if you're trying to get in cheap, you're not buying Progressive.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, if you I mean, a rock chucker's a hard press to beat for your first press.
Yeah.
But Lee makes some presses that'll do the job for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So Spud saying best decapping dies are Mighty Army or RWS. What are those? I don't know what those are.
Mighty Armory is simply that. RWS, what the heck is that? I've heard that before.
I think I've seen that logo. It's a little R, a big W, and a little S, right?
RWS is a German ammo manufacturer. I don't know if that's the same guys he's referring to.
Oh, okay. What does RWS stand for? Is it like a
probably something only Jens can pronounce?
Yeah, it's a 15-second long word. Thanks, Phil. Figured I'd represent the Canuck tonight.
Yeah, you got a nice toque there, eh?
Yeah, nice toque there, boy. Boy, I don't know who's.
I don't know. I'm not sure. Somewhere in Canada, there's got to be vernacular supporting that.
Yeah. Oh, so it was Phil that had said that it was Morgan, Utah. Man, I'm behind on the comments, hey?
Yeah, you are. You're
holy
way
crap.
Back there.
So Utah contains Morgan King, Voodoo Gunworks, the lady features in the true crime style video on YouTube by Matt Orchard. What the fuck does that mean? I'm not going to go to Voodoo.
Look up.
And who's Morgan King? Orchard. Who's Morgan King?
He's I don't know. He's Dr. King's cousin.
Okay, I'm going with that.
Okay.
So Bending is saying that a Hornady lock and load without case feeders for around $600 US. So if
$2,000 Canadian.
That's got to be really close to what a Dillon 750 is going to cost you, then I would think.
Yeah. Okay.
Be very, very similar.
Yeah. Being called a hipster because I walked into a Cabela's store, so that was a very hurtful comment.
Chris needs to take a little time now.
Yeah. So Mike is saying try finding Retumbo and Magnum primers. I have not tried to do that anytime recently. Have you guys?
I've had no need to look lately, but I've seen some of the prices on when they are in stock somewhere and in an auction. It's just incredible.
I haven't needed Retumbo, and I'm very fortunate that what I've needed for primers and stuff like that, I find in the cabinets on this side of my laptop here. I'm a hoarder.
Good idea. Good idea. So let's talk about powders for just a second because and there's another comment here from Todd. He says that H1000 and Varget in 8-pound and 1-pound at XRO and Swift. So that's good to know.
There's one more we should get to here.
Okay, go ahead.
The Unprofessional. Hey, fellas, first time catching live. Sorry I'm a little late, but I was driving. I live in central Utah. We are home to Barnes Bullets, Christensen Arms, and Fierce Firearms. Love listening to you.
Well, thank you.
Thanks very unprofessional, sir.
First of all, Barnes, we've already said we'd like to visit. I would like to go see Christensen Arms.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of like those magnesium chassis bolt actions that they've been doing lately.
Okay.
I got to fiddle around with one at a gun store in Montana earlier this year, and like, man, it was pretty nice. Maybe not as nice as the Brigera magnesium chassis.
Righto.
but it was still pretty
Love
nice.
that thing.
Hornady's new thing at NASGW was 7 mil PRC. Phil says.
Yep.
So what's the deal with 7 mil? Obviously, just another Wildcat cartridge. But what happened to all the other PRC cartridges? Like, why are they going to 7 mil now?
Well, why wouldn't they? They've established 6.5 and 300, so 7 mil is kind of next logical.
What is that in caliber?
iteration.
Like 280 something?
284.
Okay.
Yeah. So I haven't really looked into it yet, but it's you know how the 6.5 284 is well, it was designed for the Model 88 Winchester, I believe, or Model 100 Winchester, short action, but it limited bullet weight, i.e. length, to cycle through that short action. It's really a mid-length action cartridge, and I think that's where they've gone with the 7 PRC. It's kind of not as long as a 30-06 sort of length cartridge, and it's not as short as the 6.5 PRC or the 308 length action.
That doesn't sound near as cool as either the 6.8 Western or the 8.6 Blackout.
Well, I think it's a hell of a good idea personally, but let me remind you, you really like the 8.6 Blackout. So
well, and remember, like 6 months ago, all I could talk about was 6.8 Western.
I know.
I like cartridges that have a 6 and an 8 in them, and not always necessarily in the same order.
On Benny's comment there. On Benny's comment about Benny's comment about loading lots of competition ammo on a Lee single stage.
Yeah,
I don't doubt that. I think some of Lee single stages can be good, accurate presses. Some of it comes down to too, and I mean, cost being a factor, but there's a pleasure of reloading too. I've even used some of the cheaper RCBS single stages, and there's something about all that camming power the Rock Chucker has when you're full length size in cases. Just makes it a lot more enjoyable to reload.
So, sorry, what is it about a Rock Chucker?
There's a lot of camming action. Like it doesn't take a lot of effort to full length size a case on a Rock Chucker.
I have noticed that I've never really had much difficulty resizing a case.
I remember I had a friend bring over a Reloader Special RCBS press, and he was loading 30-30. And we didn't, of course, have his press mounted really well because he brought it to my house to set his dies. And I couldn't figure out what was wrong until I realized that, this has like a third of the camming action of my Rock Chucker. You just have to lean on the handle and it sizes them fine. Right.
Oh, you just have to lean on the handle. Yeah.
Well,
you have to lean on the handle, and I weigh 287 pounds, by the way.
I mean, had the press been mounted properly, I probably wouldn't have noticed as much.
Yeah.
But there is definitely something we said with the camming action on a Rock Chucker, or I run a Redding turret press now. Same thing. Lots of camming action on that.
Interesting. Do the progressives have much for camming action on them?
Oh, yeah, because you're doing a lot of operation at once, and they don't slow you down a lot.
Yeah, I would imagine. Okay.
There's no doubt of torque. Don't put your fingers in. That's why I didn't have motors on mine.
Yeah.
So I might consider it now that I have a bullet feeder for one of them.
Yeah.
Because I've tried to stick my fingers in the cases permanently with just me putting bullets in. I'm not sticking my fingers in there with a motor running it.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah. I would imagine that the bullet feeder is a necessity before putting a motor on it for sure. If it's going to be automated, it has to be automated.
I would think so. That's my opinion anyway.
Could you imagine what that would do to your finger?
Yes, I can, because I've tried to do it with me running the handle. I have a pretty good idea what that'll do.
Did you have like a perfectly circular? It must have been like you tried to like stamp a cookie sheet, like you used your finger as a cookie sheet.
You're not wrong.
Oh man, that would suck.
You get the old Fred Flintstone throbbing finger bulb.
Yeah, no doubt. So Yukikaze does not like our New York accents over here. Forget about it. That's all I got to say about that. Spud does want to make a correction from his earlier comment. Not an RWS, an FW Arms decapping die is what
I haven't heard of that.
That's why we didn't know what he was talking about.
Yeah, that's exactly why. Here's a question from James Kopek. For the 6.5, what is better, small or large primers? I'm assuming he means the Creedmoor. And I have both small and large primer cases, not intentionally, but I do. What about you guys?
Well, it depends on what you're doing. There have been tests, more so, I believe, with 308. The small primer. What do they call them? There's a name they call the 308 small primer pocket. Palma cases.
Okay.
And there's I don't think there's any real advantage, small rifle over large rifle. For a case like that, the small rifle primer allows there to be more material around that primer pocket. You've heard or read, heard guys talking or read about primer pockets loosening after a while. So, and that's of course because of pressure, repeated cycles of pressure. If you've got more meat around that hole. You
want to reword that?
Pocket.
Okay.
As soon as it came out of my mouth.
It's just like, what am I saying?
You can never have too much meat around your hole, folks.
Okay, carry on.
It'll withstand more pressure for more firings, I guess, is one of the.
Okay.
My other understanding is the small primer pockets is your primer is less of a percentage of your charge.
Right.
So your variation primer to primer, which is not as consistent as powder lots, you're relying more on your powder charge than you are on your primer. So you get more consistency is what I understand.
Out of the
theoretical
powder.
I have never tested it.
It's very debatable.
No, sorry.
Anything I've read anyway.
The theory there is that you're getting more consistency out of the small primer for that reason?
Well, even your variation, you think about it, if your small primer puts less energy into your case, you're making more with powder. So your powder is more consistent than your primer. So you're lessening the amount of variance in primers for very small primers. That's what I've read about it. I've shot lots of small pistol primer cases. I've never compared them. I just go with what I read, and I basically go with what I can find. Whoever invented small pistol case primer 45 ACP should be shot.
Okay, makes sense.
I suppose if you're running ragged edge bench rest competitions and stuff like that, those guys that actually weigh their primers and sort them according to weight, you would see a difference, and that's where your small primer versus large primer would probably.
You have to start arguing with me. Phil thinks I'm right.
What's that, sorry?
Phil thinks I'm right. You have to start arguing with me now.
I didn't think I was arguing with
you. You didn't even realize it. You were losing the argument. You didn't even know you were arguing.
Oh, well, okay. Mid argument. Well, hey, hold on. Phil thinks you're right.
Wait a minute. Counterpoint. Fuck you. Anyway, I got three quick off topic comments, and then we'll get this back right on topic here. Yuka Kazi wants to know when us Canuckistanis are heading down to KY. Is that the factory or the state? I love the acronym for Kentucky.
Sounds like a theme park. A really, really cool theme park.
So I actually will be driving through the far southwest end of Kentucky in January, but I'll be there for about 2.5 hours, just basically going from Georgia to Wisconsin. Is it Wisconsin first? It doesn't matter. But I won't be able to stop anywhere in Kentucky. We're going to Vegas in January, and that is where the Kentuckians should be meeting us, just for the record. Phil has helped me out with the name of Bergera's magnesium chassis rifle. It is the MG Light. I was playing around with it at SHOT Show last year at the Bergera booth, and it'll probably be there again this year. And this year I'm going to put it on video because it is a wild little rifle, and it's like it's a full-size rifle. I don't know if it was like like 20 or 22-inch barrel on it. Something funny is coming up here for Oscar. You got to wait, Oscar. You got to wait. Like it was a full size, full length rifle, and I'm picking it up by the pistol grip and just like flopping it around, just like exactly what you're thinking about. Carbon fiber barrel. It was awesome. Anyway, I'm so behind on comments. I don't even know what this one means, but Rooster says he was is expecting a cutaway of you running through a field of flowers, dancing with a brigade.
That is the next video in the series.
Oh, he was talking about your B14 HMR review.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Actually, wait. I got to get this in here. I just have 2 words now. Phil says, actually, Rooster is exactly right in his explanation and agreement with Oscar. Now,
Phil, you could have talked all night and not said that.
I have 2 things to say.
That's hilarious. I'm trying. Sorry, guys. I'm just gonna have to skip. Alex from Affordable Optics Rifle Reviews.
Hey.
First of all, Alex, good to see you. He says personal preference is the RCBS Summit. I'm assuming that's a single stage, or is that
It is? Yeah, very beefy single stage. Yeah, a little unconventional as far as single stage presses go. Different design, but it's it's got like an inch or 2-inch or something mast on it, and and the cartridge stays on the bottom, the base, and basically it's a tool head with the dot. That runs up and down. Yeah.
Okay, I've seen those. Yeah. Okay, and that makes his second comment actually make sense. Doesn't get the shaft dirty.
That's very important, folks.
I had no idea what he was talking about, so thank you for clarifying that. I was, and I was going to put the comment up anyways, but it makes a lot more sense.
A clean shaft just makes a fella's day. Really,
absolutely. Mike asked a question: is that the new 10-station progressive? But I don't know which comment he was talking about there.
Yeah, it's going a while.
That might be the RCBS. I think the RCBS new one was a lot of.
Oh, I think he was asking Alex if it was their 10-stage progressive, and Alex is saying no, it's their single stage. Okay, so I got to skip a bunch of these, otherwise I'm never going to get there. Sorry.
While you're looking there,
go ahead, Oscar.
Oh, yeah. Phil says he calls him like he sees him. I'd expect no less, Phil.
Here's a good question from Jonathan that Phil might have to answer. We're going off the rails now.
Yeah.
I should never try to read comments. John wants to know, Phil, you can maybe give the answer in the chat, although I know that it's a tongue-in-cheek question. Is the MG Light a good fire starter when you're in a survival situation?
Sure, you just scrape a little bit of that magnesium off and hit it with your striker, and away you go.
Hit it with your steel survival knife, and but you're going to get a bunch of Cerakote mixed in with that, and I don't know, will that mess things up or what?
Well, no, it just gives it a better smell when it lights.
Well, I'll tell you what, hunting with a survival rifle, a true survival rifle, there you go. And Phil has confirmed, if you scrape a little off the front, yes, Rooster's correct again. Rooster's batting 1,000 right now.
Because my mouth isn't running away with my brain tonight.
2 hits, 2 home runs. So, okay, a lot of our talk so far has been around specifically the brands and the types of reloaders and that sort of stuff. We've gone a little bit into primers, a little bit into powder. Like the rabbit hole of bullets, I think would just be too much for the half an hour or so that we have left. Let's talk about methods, because that seems, Phil, Skull, he said, pass the bourbon. Let's talk about methods, because go for the water. That seems to be really where the rubber meets the road, whether you've got a progressive or a single stage, whether you're using Hodgdon powder or Vitivory powder or large primers or small primers. Everybody seems to have their own little thing. And like so many things in the gun world, a lot of it seems like there's 2 industries that I know that rely on bro science a lot.
Okay.
The fitness
Bodybuilding.
bodybuilding definitely is number one. And like the extension, the supplement industry, and guns seems to be the second one. So let's see if we can collectively figure out what some of the bro science aspects of the method of reloading are and what is not bro science. So let's start, because most of these I don't know the answer to. So this is going to be educational for me. Let's start with annealing. And let's not talk about the two camps. Like, oh, you don't need to anneal. That's for suckers. I need to anneal every single time, and I have a $1,500 machine that anneals for me, and it's beautiful. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about.
Guys talk exactly like that. Same.
I know. Same tone and everything. Only they had
made both points.
Have you? Except they had a New York accent. So let's talk about annealing, what it does, why you should do it, and why you do or don't need to do it at certain times. And go.
To me,
let's hear your explanation, Oscar.
If you're using expensive brass, annealing's a thing.
Yeah.
500 416 at $8 a brass, I'm going to anneal those bad boys.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have to use the high scientific methods necessarily because I'm shooting a rifle that's designed for shooting really big, really mean things at 30 yards. I need to anneal the brass so it doesn't crack. I need to not over anneal it so I don't crush the shoulders. That's all I'm after. I don't have to be extremely consistent on neck tension. Yes, being somewhere there is good, but that's not what I'm doing it for.
Mm-hmm.
I've got other cartridges that are
brass longevity.
That's what I'm looking for is brass life.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you are, and we should back up a little bit. I am not necessarily an accuracy reloader. I have loaded rounds that shoot sub half-inch groups in some of my rifles, things like that. Yeah. I'm capable
You're the definition
of loading
of a practical reloader for hunting and all the shit that you're doing.
I for almost all of my shooting sports, my opinion is the more ammo I shoot, the better I'm going to shoot.
Yeah.
I do not necessarily have to have quarter MOA groups.
Right. Not for what you're doing.
The sports I've shot in my life have been 500 meter silhouette shooting. That is offhand at steel targets from 200 to 500 meters. We're talking a chicken that's probably at 8 inches across at 200 yards, so 4 MOA target or better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need a half MOA gun. I need to be able to hit that off my hind legs. That takes practice. Right. I need to shoot 1,000 rounds that are 1 MOA, not 50 rounds that are half MOA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's
where I've taken most of my life from. 3-gun, put rounds on target as fast as possible back when I could shoot 3-gun. Right. Pistol silhouette, same thing. Some of it's a little more precision. I mean, I got pistols I can shoot groups at 100 yards that are probably under 2 inches with from the position I shoot that sport with. But it's still, I'm shooting at a pig that's 2 feet long by foot tall. I need more ammo to practice the positions, to practice the shooting. I am not a bench rest guy, typically speaking, and I'm not an F-class guy. You know, yes, I have an F-class rifle. Yes, I have bench guns. Yes, I play with them. I do have some gopher guns that I like to shoot out to 400 and 500 yards on gophers. Those accuracy is a little more important on.
Yeah.
But when it comes to that, the accuracy to me is I want to make decent ammo, but I don't have to get every last inch and quarter.
You need reliable ammo. Yeah. You're not
I need consistent ammo and reliable ammo. So to me, I understand a lot of the concepts. So when you get into annealing, the guys who are looking for neck tension, the F-class guys, the bench rest guys, where they want perfect neck tension.
Right.
Now you start looking at the expensive machines and maybe it's worth it to you. I don't have the experience of those machines to say that. I don't have experience to say they're not.
And those guys,
if you're not looking for that nth degree,
every time.
Yeah. If you're a guy going hunting and you're spending $2,000 on a annealing machine, why?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
because they can tell their buddies that they have one and that do
right.
That.
If you're trying to shoot sub MA groups at 1,000 yards, or trying to shoot sub quarter MOA groups at 100 yards, hey, anything you think gives you an advantage. Even if it's just in your head, it'll help.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So a couple of interesting questions here. I'm assuming that Dennis, well, obviously
Dennis
Dennis
pretty
is
much
talking-
sums it up right there. It
Yeah.
saves me a lot of breath. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's talking more obviously about precision shooting aspects,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
And for our audio listeners, he says you should anneal and let your extreme spread tell you how often to do it. I find every third time on comp rounds gives me great ES on second and third rounds, and when I get time on hunting rounds. And he's basically, his last sentence is basically echoing what you said. Like, it's just like every once in a while when he has time, probably just to extend brass life.
Yeah.
Now Jeff is making the comment. I think he meant that Oscar, you don't anneal your rounds every time because you don't caress your gun like Rooster. I'm assuming that's what he meant. That's got to be a typo. It's only the B-14 HMR that Rooster wants to make love to now.
Allegedly.
Well, you know what, buddy? You're rehoming that pretty soon, so
Yes, sir.
don't wear her
It'll
out
go to a
before
new
you
lover.
pass her on. That was a very sexist thing for me to say, wasn't it?
Can I show you some examples of why you don't over anneal brass?
Holy.
Oh
yes,
yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
That is not so good. And there's actually a little dimple here on the shoulder too.
Yeah.
Set the shoulder back a little bit, seating the bullet.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
That was on your wall of shame.
Since
I've had a few like that. These weren't my brass. I was loading for another gentleman, and I couldn't figure out I was having troubles reloading. And I asked him what he was. Then he told me he was taking home and annealing before giving to me. I'm like, "What's your annealing process?" He's like, "Well, I take them cherry red." I'm like, "There's the problem.
Yikes.
They were a little hot,
yeah,
a little over soft. Like, you can't have these till I've loaded them like 5 times and got something worked back into them."
So if you could, like, can you literally just anneal at home with a little like propane torch, like one at a
Absolutely.
time? Yeah. Just don't fuck around and heat them till they're red.
Well, you kind of
You want to heat them
you
till they
kind of
just
got to
start
have
to
an idea
color
what
change.
you're doing.
Yeah.
For
Okay.
And again, you're not going to get the stuff the guys shooting F class and bench rest are looking for. You're probably not going to get that with a home torch and a bucket of water.
Yeah.
For what I want to do, not have this happen and not have case splits, I could do that with a torch
That's right.
and a jug of water.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because you're not getting that that almost exact uniformity around the entire neck when you're doing it with a torch, right? Something like some of the fancier purpose-built machines out there, you're more assured of that uniformity.
And I have considered the $2,000 machine for doing these brass. Haven't pulled the pin yet, but I've considered it.
There's other things involved with other benefits you see from annealing as well, but it has to do with custom tight neck chambers, how you size your brass. If you're running just a regular SAMI chamber with a large neck and thin brass necks, there's so many things that go into it, but it basically all comes down to for the precision rifle guys. It pretty much all comes down to uniform neck tension across all your ammunition, and that bullet release. I hate using that term, but the amount of pressure it takes to start that bullet out of the neck is where velocity variations come into play, or part of that whole velocity variation phenomena, I guess, that you want to get rid of. So if you're competing at a high level in whatever, pick your professional rifle poison, annealing has become damn near essential. Now, if you, I just saw a comment a little while back about one of the top PRS shooters in the States, very basic brass prep, and maybe he doesn't anneal. I don't know. I'd have to run back and look at that comment again. But if you're only running your brass, good quality brass, in a good chamber for 2 or 3, maybe 4 firings or something like that, and then pitching them out or moving on to the next caliber rifle, whatever, it probably doesn't matter all that much.
Okay.
Let's keep in mind PRS. Generally, you're shooting 2-minute of angle targets, right?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
David has a comment there. Oh, go ahead.
So okay, I'll get to David in just a quick second. Blindspotter's finally getting around to telling me who Morgan King is. Top PRS shooter in the U.S. Out of Utah, I guess. Apparently, his reloads are very basic, loads to a velocity target for a given bullet and then runs with it. He's not turning necks or anything, apparently. Interesting. Okay. Where is David's comment here?
He's got a
Walcott?
comment about, it says little toaster oven works too. No, it does not.
No,
You want to anneal
no.
the neck. If you heat up and anneal the back part of your case, you'll get case head separate splits, all kinds of bad things. You need
You want some
integrity of the
hardness
brass
in
in
the
the
base.
base.
Yeah.
So the
want
neck
soft
needs
base
to be
in
a
the
little
case.
bit more flexible. The base needs to be hard.
Right.
That's actually the way you harden brass is by working it. That actually, all the stampings in the base of your case, your caliber stamp, your cartridge manufacturer, stuff like that, those aren't entirely there just to tell you what they are. Everything you do to the brass hardens it. That's part of the process of hardening the brass at the base.
That's very
those
true.
stampings.
Yeah.
So if you soften the case, that's why guys will do a torch. They'll stand it in a case in a pan of water, heat the necks and tip them over. That way they can't heat up the base and soften the base of the case.
Oh, really? Okay. So that's probably why Phil, he was saying a pan of ice water, heat him up, knock him in the water for hunting stuff.
Yeah.
I tried that once. I could never get enough heat in the damn neck. I don't know whether it had too much water in there or not, and I abandoned it after about 3 attempts. I mean, three cases.
The only thing you can have go wrong with that though is you do this and you over soften them.
Yeah,
you can't replicate. You can't endanger yourself doing it that way.
Yeah. So is it just like a quick little? If let's say you're using a hand torch, is it just a quick little pass through it? Or is it like 2 Mississippis? Like, what are you doing here?
Well, here, Dennis lays it out here, kind of a little bit here. He says, I used the torch in a 1/2-inch deep socket for years. I use an induction unit. You have to shoot really good to shoot the difference. But what he's talking about there, and I do the same thing. Jens has a really good annealer, and I'll go over there for the more critical stuff. But at home, especially if I'm in a rush, I don't have access to Jens's tools, whatever. Especially with my 6.5 Rooster stuff, because I've had to form them so bloody much. They need annealing quite frequently. But you take a socket, a deep socket on a drill that will fit the case, and you spin it and you run your torch on it until you get the right color, just that color change on the neck of the case, and you dump it. So that's all.
Your socket does 2 things. It holds the case and it acts as a heat sink.
It's a heat sink. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. All right. Second question. And I'm not sure that this is so much a potential bro science myth, but it's just something that I was thinking about. Neck length when you're trimming your brass. What are the dangers of having a case overall length that's too long? And what are the dangers of having a case overall length that is too short?
Well, the case that is too long should be obvious to most of us that really know our stuff about reloading. I guess it'll jam into the end of the chamber, the neck portion of the chamber.
You'll basically force the case to crimp as you seat it in the chamber.
Exactly, and that jacks
short
pressures.
version of what he's trying to say.
That's if it's too long.
That's if it's too long.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
and then you get
short
pressures.
case. That's right. Yeah, increased pressures, and that's never a desirable thing anyway.
Okay.
A short neck, there's really no danger.
You would have to be super short to be a problem.
That's right. Well, take for instance my 358 Norma Magnum. It's basically it's a case that's about 30 thou longer than a 338 Win Mag. So I use 338 Win Mag, neck it up to 358 and run it. They're 25 thou shorter than a 358 Norma, but it presents no problem at all. It's not even a danger. What you'll run into with a short case, especially in a high volume rifle, is carbon ring, because what happens when that case mouth isn't at the front of the chamber, that edge where it goes from neck to throat, carbon will catch on that edge and deposit, and it'll essentially grow over time, over firings, and give you a carbon ring, and that will also increase pressures. It kind of sort of acts the same way as a crimped case on that bullet.
Will that affect?
Absolutely, it will.
Back to short cases too. If you take your Winchester brass, if you find some, measure it all, you'll find a lot of it will be underneath the trim to length, even brand new brass.
Yeah, I've noticed that multiple times.
Yeah, loaded it all and shot it, and when it gets to length, trim, then trim it.
Yeah. So now that begs another question. Regardless of whether you anneal or not, as you refire that brass and have to keep trimming it, eventually that neck is just going to become too thin to be worth it anyways, right?
No.
It's back here, it gets thin.
Right.
Okay, so
that's why you need case head separations. The whole case moves forward, and you're actually losing the metal right here in front of the web. Can
you see on that there? Is the camera going to show it? You can see a bit of the texture difference, I think, on the screen. But there's a ring around the base of my case, and Kurt, you've told me this before, that it's because I'm doing the full length sizing die, and I'm pressing all the way.
Part of the reason.
Okay, what's the other part of the reason?
Well, again, there's many things, but it could be like your die setup is critical to brass life. If you just run that die down to the shell holder and you full length size your brass as much as it'll go, it'll likely size it down below SAMI standard. And especially if you have a chamber that's cut on the large side of the tolerance for SAMI spec, it's doing this stretching and resizing, stretching all the time. So that wears on brass. It puts added stress on it. It stretches that head area out every time, just a little bit by little bit.
Okay.
If you've got especially if you've got a chamber that's off center a little bit, it'll put a more pronounced ring on the one side. You've seen that before, I'm sure.
On one side rather than the other?
Yeah. You'll see
I actually do see that on this exact piece right here.
Yeah. So proper die setup is paramount to to so many things, to brass life, to brass concentricity.
And you should be checking your brass life too on the inside. You take a bent over paper clip or a little pick, run in, and you'll feel that ring growing. You'll feel you can catch a pick on it on the inside.
Okay.
And that I've actually had several people bring me rifles that had case head separations, needed the cases removed out of the chambers, which I've got all the stuff to do. And they're like, is the rifle okay? What's wrong with my rifle? It happened. I'm like, do you reload? They're like, yep. Have you ever checked your brass for insipid case head separation? They're like, huh, what? So explain to them, a guy brings a 7 mag and you say, okay, it's got case head separation. And belted magnums are terrible for it because they get space off the belt. If guys are full length sizing, they're stretching back and forth a lot.
Okay.
And you ask them, how many times you reloaded that brass? Do you get the blank look? It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Give an education how you check that.
Is that why neck sizing, like if I've got Fireform brass, is neck sizing the better option then?
Generally speaking, no. Neck sizing only. I think that came from the bench rest circles, when they've got good tight chambers and all that kind of stuff, and they could get away with just touching that neck of the case to resize it enough just to hold the bullet, and away you go again. But you're only going to get away with that for so long, so many firings until you actually have to full length size, because the diameter will grow slightly with every firing as well.
Okay.
And if you don't squish that diameter back to a clearance, let's say, at some point you're going to have trouble with chambering and or extraction, and you certainly don't want to have that on a semi-automatic rifle or a hunting rifle or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a famous reasonably famous Sierra quote, Sierra bullets, somebody from Sierra once said that you want to size your cases so they fit like a rat turd in a violin case.
That actually means nothing to me because I've never tried to put a rat turd in a violin case.
Basically, size your cases right,
Yeah.
but don't have them tight.
Got it. Okay.
Geez, there's a T-shirt line.
Size your cases right, but don't have.
The only thing I
them
ever
tight.
neck sized much was a 7 IMSA, which is a 300 Savage neck down to
Right.
7 mil and with small primer pocket. And that's because that brass, IMSA stamped brass, is basically been unavailable since the 80s.
Yes, sir.
And I've got stuff that's got like 25 fire rings on it, but it was like
Really?
neck size 3 times full length size, neck size 3 times full length size. Because
Oh.
eventually it won't want to chamber properly. And it's a target pistol. If it doesn't chamber on the line, I grab another round and I chamber it.
Okay. Okay.
Rob has an interesting question here. What is the maximum headspace you would shoot for those times when you bump the shoulders back a bit too far? Well, I don't know. I've seen it as much as 12 thou and not caused any problems. I had a 284 at one time where factory Lapua brass, the shoulder location on it was 12 thou short of where my chamber was, I guess, right? A fired case in that chamber was 12 thou longer than factory brass. So there's two things I could have done there. And I did the easiest one in this case, but I went ahead and fired it. And you know what? That brass lasted quite a long time. I'm very few calibers do I run ragged edge. So there's not wild pressures and all that kind of stuff. The other thing you could do that I've done in many other calibers, especially Wildcats or Ackley improved cases, stuff like that, I'll neck that case up to the next caliber size. Like say for like if I was going to do that with the 284 brass, I'd neck it up to 30 or make a custom mandrel and bring it up 10 thou or something like that, and then resize that back down to 284, but leave what they call a false shoulder, so that there's kind of a donut that appears at the bottom of your neck. You don't resize it all the way. There's a sort of a donut that appears at the bottom of your neck, and it's what head spaces against the shoulder in your chamber. From there, then you can fire, and if you've got enough of that donut there, that false shoulder, when the firing pin hits, it won't push that case any further forward, and it'll form the shoulder to the dimensions of that chamber. But you know what? I don't know. Like, what's the maximum I would go? I'm not sure. I'm sure you could get away with 25 thou cartridge headspace less than chamber headspace, but I don't know how many times you'd be firing that particular shell, that particular piece of brass.
Okay, so now back to helping me. So I ran a little pick through a couple of these just while you were talking. I don't feel anything. It feels it's like it's not catching anything.
One thing I noticed, your pick is angled on the end quite a bit.
Yeah, that's because
if you get a 90 degree, you'll catch better. So it means you might have to find a wire. I mean, I can do a 90 degree pick on this monstrous case.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to do
I've got a 90 degree pick, but it won't fit in my.
Yeah, you're going to have to get a paper clip or a little wire and bend a 90 on the end of it.
Son of a bitch.
Because unless you got cases this large, your pick won't fit.
Yeah, I don't. And even the little one won't fit. Oh, wait, It will. It will. But you know what? It still doesn't get caught.
Well, then don't have a case head incipient then.
Yeah. Okay.
You got some firings.
So obviously those can be fired. Okay. So how do I prevent that ring from forming then? So it seems to me that if I just set the die a little bit higher, it's going
to form. It's just a case of how fast it forms.
So most of that has to do with, like, even if you size your brass right, you'll still get that ring in many cases, probably most cases, especially with thinner cases like Winchester brass. They are quite thin. What you're seeing there, that ring above the case head, is simply the unsupported portion of that case. because not the entire case sits in the chamber, right?
Yeah.
There's that much that is held by the bolt outside the chamber.
And Phil was saying that sometimes that ring can form just due to that space.
Right. That's exactly right.
That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess you just got to live with it.
That's it.
Got to buy some Lapua brass, I guess, and
just watch it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Jeff says, I know it's off topic, but every time I resize 243 brass down to 6.5 Creedmoor, I always anneal the brass. Is that a good thing or bad? Now, before you guys answer that question, why don't you just buy 6.5 Creedmoor brass?
Some guys like to do things different. Maybe he's got thousands of 243 cases.
He probably does. Yeah.
You know?
All right. So what's the answer to that question then?
It's a good thing.
Okay.
Because by sizing that 6 mil neck up to 6.5, you're inducing quite a bit of stress. And you're a 243 in 6.5 Creedmoor die, I think you're moving that shoulder too. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I would imagine he's probably having to neck turn that brass as well, because I think probably part of that shoulder will become neck, and the shoulder thickness is much thicker than neck thickness.
Okay.
You know, but yes,
you're at the start of annealing was the other last reason to anneal is for wildcatting cases into other cases. Amen. You're doing a bunch of sizing steps. Annealing will help with that, keep your brass life, because like if you take, when I load, I didn't anneal them because I used to load 223 into what they call 7 TCU, Thompson Center Ugaldi. I'm taking it for 22 cal to 7 mil. Ooh. There's a certain amount of them just split. Yeah, but it's 223 brass, so I don't care. They're cheap. If it was an expensive brass, I'd have annealed them doing that to make them a size easier.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. And Jeff's answer is also a good answer. Sometimes it's hard to find 6.5 Creedmoor brass. Hard to find friggin' brass at all. Anybody know where I can get some 308 well, it doesn't even have to be Winchester. Shit, I'll take brass. So I thought North Pro. Here's a good question. So I've heard people say the difference between your military brass and your other brass, other than the fact that you might have crimp primers. I love that we're just listening to Oscar's point.
I'm like,
all of our audio listeners are like, either someone's pouring a drink or somebody took their mic with them to the bathroom.
Hey, barkeep, whiskey, leave the bottle.
Leave the bottle. Okay, so I've heard that military brass versus call it commercial brass. Other than the fact that you might end up with crimp primers, that often you're ending up with harder, thicker walled brass. True or false?
Say that again. Sorry.
With military versus commercial brass.
Yeah.
The biggest differences are that you may end up with a crimp primer. See, Oscar's laughing, but he didn't hear me either.
We were both ignoring you entirely.
Oh, I'm so glad I'm asking you guys questions. Anyway, you may end up with crimp primers. Crimp primers, sorry. But also probably with harder and thicker walls on the brass. True. Or false?
True.
Okay.
True. Yeah.
So does that matter? Advantages, disadvantages, other than the fact that you would have to swage the pockets?
And your case capacity is going to be less. So you might have, if you take a commercial brass and you load the same load in a military brass, you might get higher pressures.
Trouble. Yep. Absolutely.
That's your big concern.
Okay. And like, are we talking like big differences here? Like if you're like filling up 100% case capacity with say 42 grains of powder, then you move to a military brass, you try to put 42 grains of powder in there. You're just going to compress the.
Well, not necessarily.
If you were at 60% of one case, right. Now you're 62% of the next case because it's thicker.
It's still going to
pressure increase.
Yeah, especially if you're running ragged edge in that thinner case, that commercial case.
Yeah,
you're running at the top end of tolerable pressure or whatever. Then you go to a thicker case and you run that same load. You're asking for trouble for sure.
Got it.
I'm going to say if you're taking your loading manually, starting at the bottom of the load, your military brass probably isn't going to be over pressure, but you might see your pressure signs 1.5 grains sooner than you will with your commercial brass.
Certainly, Phil's got it right there. He says. With 308 Winchester, you're looking at about 2 grains less space. Commercial brass over military brass.
Now, in terms of pressures, is my math all fucked up here, or am I correct in thinking that it would be the same sort of pressures as taking the commercial brass and putting 2 additional grains in it, or does that not equal out?
I wouldn't say that math would necessarily work, but I haven't tested it.
It's not that simple or linear.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I just thought I'd ask.
When you deal with internal ballistics, there's a lot of calculus involved, and I didn't do well in calculus.
Yeah.
Calcul what?
Who's? Hey, we were so on topic today, guys.
Yeah.
I am so proud of us.
We can see who can handle their alcohol.
Well, both you and I had a drink last time, and you and I had a drink this time. The only variable that's changed is that Rooster's sober tonight. So, how should we wrap this up? Is there anything else that we should, talk about that we need to talk about with
yes,
reloading?
I got set with props for this conversation for Rooster.
Oh, okay. All right.
And I did not bring this up till the end for a reason.
Okay, do I get
points? On this topic all night. So Don sent me, because you were talking about the brass wanting to go, the whole idea of Chris's bullets rather than brass case. As far as he's concerned, with the copper cases, that jacket shouldn't be a problem. Brass will age and want to crack. Copper is so malleable. So there is his. That is a 30 cal bullet jacket, basically.
Right.
And he was swaging them out to 45 caliber.
Yokai-kazi.
Okay.
No kidding.
And then dropping in a lead bullet.
Oh.
And swaging them into bullets. And he said he was actually he put a little solder in the bottom of the cake. And he was actually making bonded core bullets for his 4570, I believe.
Well, ain't that some down home campfire? I don't know.
It's something.
Yeah.
You know what?
They never wanted to split apart.
So started out so fucking good, and then it's just like
it just leaked out.
Yeah, it was like the Chevy cylinder cutout system that it just cut out at the wrong time.
Welcome to my brain.
I've got something awesome to share with the world. Look what Phil just told me. My albino gun lands this weekend.
Hello. Oh, please never do that again.
So for everybody who doesn't give a flying fuck because it's my gun and not yours, I'm going to tell you anyway. I am picking up the Canuck or the Duria Canuck TM22 from Odell Engineering, and it is the new white chassis with the extended handguard and the adjustable what would that be called? Like, is it an A4 type stock or carbine stock? Carbine modern sporting rifle stock on it, and it's going to be awesome. Can I show you what else I've got waiting for it?
And for those of you folks out there that are as concerned as I am, I'm sure there's a mental health clinic or charity somewhere you can donate to for people like Chris.
There's always is. That's why we have Medicare in this country for my meds. Yeah. So I've been working so much with centerfire reviews and everything else and shotguns and for so long that nobody has even called me Captain Rimfire in forever.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Well, way to go. You've graduated finally, young fella.
I know, right? Like all of a sudden I'm
where you need to be.
That's right. All of a sudden I'm the Canadian 180 guy. And I'm like, no, like I was Captain Rimfire for a time and then Private Rimfire and everything else.
Right.
So I'm going to go back to being Private Rimfire, and I'm going to do a TM22 review, and it's going to be awesome. And I'm going to put this on my barrel. And this is a homemade flash hider that had absolutely zero effect on the bullet whatsoever. But I think it's going to look really cool on the end of that TM22.
Hey, everybody, it's Chris's new extender. Hey, we're not here to judge.
Well, but you are, though.
Harshly.
Harsh. Please don't whisper that in such a sultry voice. Anyway, I'm really excited. Phil says that it's on the way, so that's going to be awesome. I've got so much Blazer ammo just sitting there waiting for a new 22.
Whew.
Anyway.
So,
last one.
Okay, last one.
Top 3 reloading tips.
Don't suck. Go fast. Don't miss primers.
Well, for me,
maybe I shouldn't be the one answering this question.
It's probably, I can think of 2 of 3, I suppose. Read reputable, reliable information. Get off the internet, or if you're going to use the internet, use reliable sources or many, many, many sources, and use your brain.
You said that wrong. You missed a great opportunity.
What did I?
Read reputable, reliable reloading manuals.
Oh,
it's the 4 R's.
I'm sorry. What else is there? Buy good equipment.
There's the reloading manual block.
And we'll have Oscar's address in the show notes later on, folks.
Although I don't necessarily recommend showing up at night uninvited.
Yes.
Bring whiskey.
Bring whiskey.
Yeah. Good equipment. Buy once, cry once. We kind of went through some of the goods and the bads with some of the reloading equipment. If you intend to do it for a long time, Oscar brings up a good point. Some good quality PPE, I guess.
Remember when those primary tubes go through the roof?
Yeah. Good equipment is paramount. That's about all.
Yeah, I think that basically the other thing is reload lots. Make lots of ammo. That's how you shoot better.
That's true. That is very true.
And way back, like an hour ago, Mike mentioned the fact that Pauses Warner makes really nice presses for 12 gauge or shot gel. And again, there's a 3 of them back there. Yeah. So apparently we have to do another episode one night about shot gel reloading.
Yes, that would be beneficial for me as well. There's a lot that goes into that, man. Like I'm very confident with rifle reloading, but that
and
shot
I'm sure more guns have been blown up with shot shell reloads than rifle reloads ever thought about doing.
Really interesting.
Now, isn't that a feat?
Is this too much information that Jonathan Bergen shit himself twice at once with this primer?
Is that a double stage shit?
I'm not even going to ask about the logistics of how that works.
2-stage shitteroo.
Well, and maybe now is the time for us to wrap it up. That seems like a good time.
I think it might be.
So in that case, everybody, we would like to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Please check out the show at facebook.com/BS podcast. Leave us a review to let us know how we're doing. Recommend reviews only on the Facebooks. Also, if you like the content, please leave a like on our page and also share. You can also email us any questions that you might have. We would love to hear from you. That's not necessarily true, but we're going to say it anyway.
Our agents say we have to say it.
Yeah, they say we have to. Info at bspodcast.ca. And take it away, Kurt.
All right. We also want to thank all of our amazing sponsors who've been with us through all of this stuff. Did I miss something?
No.
Oh, okay.
You're good to go.
I told you to shut up over there. Anyway, a massive thank you to all our sponsors: Shane and Steve with EM Precision Rifles, Miles Carey and Cappy with call sign 66, Duncan and Rob at Bolt Action Coffee, Phil Odell at Odell Engineering, Doug and Niza with Mark Scopes Canada, Vanya and Carly with Apex Optics, and our very own Oscar with Ribstone Gunsmithing. Dankeschön. Speaking of that, Jens hasn't piped up, not once. Oh, he's hunting.
I don't think Jens is watching tonight.
He's not.
He
think
thought
he's
we
chasing
weren't
mule
going to be
deer.
on topic again.
He is.
He thought it was
Best
just
hunting's
gonna
after
be-
dark.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. He is hunting. I forgot he's hunting.
Right.
That's going to be something interesting. What will it be? The 18th, our episode on the 18th, because I'll be hunting.
I see Don piped in finally at the end with another tip, and that's wash your hands. He just says that because my lead levels are slightly elevated. You guys laugh, but at the end, when the nuclear holocaust comes, it's going to be me and the cockroaches. I tell you what.
Yeah. Superman.
Does that mean me?
Yeah. You're safe from those body scan machines at airports.
Right.
Yeah. Superman's like, man, this guy's thick. I can't see a thing. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. We will talk to everybody next week. Next week is Remembrance Day.
It is.
We are doing our best to get a really cool guest for our Remembrance Day episode. It might absolutely fall through and we might absolutely shit the bed, but we are doing our best for you guys. So, stay tuned and we'll see everybody next week. Thanks for joining us. Oscar, thanks for coming on, man.
People.
Yeah, wear your poppies, fuckers.
Yeah.
Thanks for actually talking reloading with us this time, Oscar.
No problem.
All right. Bye, everybody.
See ya.
But some of these bullets, as you saw, have an incendiary device on the tip of it, which is a heat-seeking device.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Welcome to your weekly dose of BS, the Ballistically Speaking podcast.